Comic Books and Chill, the home of the Stash Bros. I'm Mike, chilling with Chris.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another show. We appreciate you tuning in. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy some more comic book content.
The Sultan of Shade, Alex Sinclair, is back with us, Chris.
No, Mike. I believe he's the Gradient General.
Nah, he's the Commander of Color, right?
How about the Houdini of Hue?
Nice! The Houdini of Hue is back with us. Alex Sinclair.
Yeah, Alex.
Alex, how you doing?
Oh, I need you guys to record my my voicemail message. I love it. I love coming on you guys' show because there's always some great stuff in there.
Alex, last time you joined us, you were telling us that you were no longer exclusive with DC, but now on any given Wednesday, we can find work from you on both DC and Marvel. So what's the freelance life like?
It's been great. It's cool because I get offers from all kinds of folks and I can kind of pick and choose. I really suck at saying no, so I paint myself into a corner, no pun intended. And so it's exciting because you get someone like Joe Benitez says, "Hey, I did a Wildcats tribute cover. You want to color?" I'm like, "Sure." Then you get emails from the Geiger folks, Jeff John's book from Image, and hey, you want to do a cover for us? Like, sure. So it's been cool in that I now it's so open that I can pick and choose what I do. Folks are being very cool about sending me work, and especially with Marvel, I've been really picking up a lot more work with them, and it's weird that that's the monthly work that I'm doing is for Marvel, and then the odd jobs are for DC and other publishers.
You've worked on pretty much every character at DC, right? You've done everybody in your long stint. So when you started working for Marvel, was there a certain character that you were excited to work on first? Or at least
you know what? I was just happy to get the work. So when Nick Lowe from the Spider-Man office called, he's like, "Hey, you want to do some Amazing Spider-Man?" I'm like, "Yes, yeah. Who's not going to want to do Spider-Man?" And so he was great. They sent me, I did a few fill-in issues with that. Terry Dodson did one of the pages for that, the Captain America tribute, the anniversary issue. And so I did that page. And then I just kind of started getting bits and pieces from other folks, covers mainly. So, like a Beta Ray Bill cover. It's like, how am I going to say no to that? That's like my favorite ever Thor story was Walt Simonson's Beta Ray Bill stint. And so little things here and there. And then Brian Hitch said, "Hey, we're doing a new Venom series. What do you think?" I was like, "Dude, I'm in. Let's do it." There's a ton of Brian Hitch awesomeness of Venom and this crazy, really cool, very cosmic story that the writers have come up with. That it's cool because it's really flexing Brian's muscles in what he can do with a character like that. And also Mark Panicia from the Star Wars group said, "Hey, what do you think? Would you like to take over the Darth Vader book?" And I'm like, "Oh yes, please." And when, and if you can't pay me, that's cool too. Issue 17 is the first issue that I'm on, and the art's amazing, the stories are great, and I'm a kid there going like, "Oh my god, it's the next wing, and it's Red 5, and oh crap, I gotta make sure I get it just right." And so this is me. This is what is it? 40 years of me pent up, Star Wars fandom.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. Honestly, this is exciting.
They are unleashing the beast. I mean, with Darth Vader. I mean, geez, and Venom busting out working with Brian Hitch. Okay, but I want to go back to the beginning when you first got your first Marvel gig. Does the Commander of Color get intimidated? So you got that first project booted up on your screen, your first ever Marvel work. There's not a hue of color on the page yet. How you feeling when you're working on that first Marvel work?
I felt a lot like I did when I had first started with even Wildstorm and DC, where it's like, oh man, my first ever Marvel page, and it's Spider-Man, and so it was again if you can't get excited about that, then you need a different job, dude. So that was kind of like how it went for me. So every time I got a page, it's like, oh, I was that 22, 23-year-old guy starting out in comics, bright-eyed and very, very excited about it. I don't know that it was intimidating. I just wanted to kick butt on it because it's like, I got to make a good impression with these guys because, they haven't worked with me before. I got to, let them know what it's like. I got to show them what I can do and what I can bring to the table.
Okay, from a technical standpoint, you were showing us, in the past on Sinclair, you had like a palette of colors where and it was like, these are the Harley Quinn colors. Did you have to do that with Spider-Man? Did you have to come up with a completely new palette and start over from scratch with that? What was that like?
Yeah, it was just kind of mixing them like anything else, right? It's like, hey, these are like the reds I want to use, the blues I want to use, and obviously being very mindful of what my editors were telling me about, like if the blues or the reds were too dark or bright enough and that kind of stuff, and adjusting the palette a little bit to match what they're used to seeing, the little nuances, stuff like with Venom. The first piece I did, I rendered it and I sent it in, and they said, hey, we're not used to seeing rendering on Venom's white. We just usually print it white. And I was like, oh, sorry. And they're like, no, we like it.
Nice.
Because it's different. So it was kind of cool to hear that, like that I can bring something new to something that's been around for so long. And so it was kind of cool to you're so used to just like, all right, I got this. And you jump on it without thinking, oh, wait a second. What are the rules for Venom? What are the rules for Spider-Man? What are the rules? I know there's a ton of rules for Star Wars, right? And so that when Lucasfilm is looking at these, it's like, I think I'm spending a lot more time looking for reference for the Star Wars stuff than I am with any other ones. Because I know they're very, very, they're sticklers for continuity, and so that I'm trying to stay within the boundaries that they're giving us.
Wow. So okay, so all right, this is a whole new world. I can understand like with movie building and show building and TV show building, but we're talking about comic book making. And so like when you talk about continuity from the color aspect, what are you talking about? Like what needs to be continuous?
So the buttons on his control panel, on his chest panel, there's specific colors that they need to be. There's so many are red, so many are blue, so many are metal. There's green ones on his belt. And so you have to be very mindful. And obviously his chest plate has two kinds of blacks. One's a matte black, one's a gloss black. And so I'm being very mindful of creating those textures and staying true to the colors. And I'm being very careful, very mindful of it, and I'm still getting comments like, oh, this needs to be that, this needs to be that, and you go back to the ref and go, oh, dang it, I missed that. So they're very, obviously they've been working with these characters for so long that it's second nature to them. And so for me, hopefully by the third or fourth issue, I'll know exactly how Darth Vader's colors go. I'm just having fun coloring that helmet, man. Every time he's like, oh yeah, here we go.
You were around in the beginning stages of comic digital coloring. And so like if there's anybody that can walk around with this small head, well, hey, this is how it should be done, it's you.
And it has to, that's part of being a professional, right? You can't, I know that I'm not above a character like Darth Vader or any of the other characters within that storyline. So just trying to do my best.
You picked a Jim Lee, which is cool. Because obviously Jim Lee got famous drawing Wolverine and everybody, right? And so
that's right.
But you never worked with Jim during those days where he was working with Marvel. So this is a cool time right now where we can get some Jim Lee, and it looked like he did the inks on that too, right?
Yeah, this is one of his Twitch stream sketches from a couple of years back.
Okay.
And so I think part of the first step that I go through is looking at the art and trying to decide what colors I'm going to use and why am I going to use those colors. And so with a piece like this, you also have to kind of analyze the drawing, and it's Wolverine's walking through water or some kind of liquid. With this background, there's these cool little kind of fog effects coming off the water. And so right off the bat, I'm thinking that I'll do some cool kind of fade out effects there. Maybe play with some reds and some blood coming off the claws into the water and kind of rippling away. And then also the second thing is just like, all right, what costume is this, right? So you're gonna have to figure out which, this is the yellow, the blue. So that'll be cool if we pick out a different color with that'll pop these two, the yellow and the blue, so that red starts to play a little bit better. I think if it was the brown costume, I would shy away from the red, just because it would be value-wise to compete too much within itself. And so what you're seeing me do is this first step is called the flatting process, where I kind of go through and I encircle everything with this lasso tool. And then I use a bucket tool to fill with the color. And so let's grab the yellow that I'm going to use on his costume first. And then we'll go in and we'll grab his claws. And this first process is probably the most, not necessarily tedious, but it really is the easiest one, in that you're just really just kind of going through and selecting and filling with a flat color. And that's why it's called the flats. Because I'll take those flats and I'll save a version of them in an alpha channel, and some folks even save them as layers in case that I need to go through in the editing process and figure something like that out.
So these lines you're making with the mouse, is that you tracing the lines with the mouse? Is that what's happening right there?
Yeah. So I'm clicking my pen through kind of the middle of the inks, and as I'm doing it, this is kind of what's going to encircle the areas that I'm going to fill with the color. And then what I'll do is I'll turn off the inks for you, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So if you were to zoom in and turn off the inks, this is kind of what I'm doing underneath it.
You're giving it a base pretty much, right?
Yeah, so I'm not affecting the inks at all. I've set up the file so that the inks exist on a separate plane, and that way I don't mess with the inks at all. Obviously, we want to make sure that we don't mess with Jim's inks. I don't know who would want to or why.
And how long does the flatting process take usually for a cover or something like that?
A page or a cover usually takes about an hour, maybe a little bit less than that. Some take more, some take less, of course, depending on how busy it is. I tend to average an hour at the most. I also use flatters. So I have folks that I hire and pay as freelance artists to come in and do the flatting for me. In that doing so saves me that hour or so per page. So on a 20-page book, I'm saving myself 20 hours worth of work. And it allows me to spend those 20 hours either rendering or picking up another project, kind of a thing. And so I have 2 to 3 different folks that I hire to do the flatting for me. On a piece like this, it's super easy. So the flats are going to take 15-20 minutes. In fact, we're almost done with it as soon as I hit his.
So are you just winging like these colors for the flats? You just already got in your head where you're going with this? You just know?
Yeah.
See it in your mind?
Yeah. So I'm definitely coming in and looking at it. All right. So like I said, I save like a flat version of the colors so that I can edit easily, and then just kind of go from there. I'm gonna start kind of playing with how I'm gonna approach this. I like to start with the skin for the most part, and that's just my preference. There's no rhyme or reason. Some people do background to foreground with covers and pinups. I like to do the figure first and then the background around it, since that's what you want to pop. And I'm gonna kind of bring in some of that red from the background into here. And then I just, start rendering, highlighting. Right now I'm doing the reflective light, so that the light that's from behind him in the background is what I'm kind of bringing into the skin here. So now I'm rendering, and I kind of render like I would paint on a canvas. I move my way around the whole piece. So I just don't do his face only and then his arm only. I'm playing with the highlights because I want to make sure that the highlight on his bicep isn't stronger than the one on his face, because my light source is up here in the upper corner, right? It's going to, the light's going to dissipate as it moves down the body, or as the body moves away from the light, that highlight's going to get less intense.
You're coloring, is this a mouse you're using? What are you?
It's actually, I'm on a Cintiq. It's a Wacom computer, so I'm using a stylus, basically like a pen, and so I'm drawing directly on the screen. And so definitely a huge step up from when we first started doing this years ago, where there were no Wacom tablets. We were really just using the mouse, which was, the equivalent of drawing with a rock tied to your pencil. Yeah, it feels like I'm on a drafting table. So the monitor that I'm drawing as an angle that replicates what would be a drafting table angle. And so I'm just drawing straight onto the screen. So it's a lot like just drawing on paper. I'm just doing it on here.
So you could go do this outside if you wanted to right now.
Not with this equipment. So this is actually it's a 27-inch monitor. So that's
wow.
But lately, with the iPads and programs like Procreate, sure, I can put it on that and color outside, color in the living room, color on a plane. There's a lot of that now going on, in that we're spoiled and we can do our work anywhere. So I'll throw in a little bit of shadow. I'll use soft edge brushes first, kind of like an airbrush, to do the subtle transitions of color, and then I'll come in with this. The style that I've been using lately is this. I use if you can kind of see the brush here, it's a triangular shape, and then I also use a square brush, and they kind of have like marker properties, and it gives me these cool little striations or shapes of color. It's a style that's different from what we used to do back in the 90s. We used to use the gradient tool a lot with the lasso tool. And now this, for me, is a little more painterly. And so that's why I like using this style a little bit more. But I can definitely shift back to that if I need to.
What's the most challenging project you had to work on, where it was like a pain in the butt from start to finish, but you're like happy that you were a part of it?
Black as Night, for sure. That's been the hardest project I've ever worked on. There was, multiple light sources of multiple colors. Have different lanterns with their different colors firing up all the time. And so keeping track of the light sources for something like that was very hard. And then, you throw in there an artist like Ivan Rice, who is super detailed, solid structure, everything's, perfect. And that means that you got to keep track of all that lighting, and now you got to make sure that you render it perfectly, because he did the same. Him and Eau Claire did such a great job with the pencils and inks that I couldn't slack off. I had to kind of come in and pick up the baton from them and turn into just as good of work as they did.
But going back to this piece now, I'm seeing a little like shimmer and
bonkers
or something on the shoulder of the Wolverine. Now you added some more dimension to this piece.
These colors that are here are my main colors that I'll use, and then underneath that you'll see that I started to just kind of compile like a Venom palette. There's a Star Wars palette. There's Superman is here. So as the series continues, I'll start to add more and more swatches of color, depending on the characters that show up regularly. So that if right now in the Star Wars one, I have Darth Vader's colors, his TIE fighter colors. I have the X-wing colors. I've colored Luke in his X-wing outfit, so that's there now. So those things, as I come across them, I create the palette, because for me, consistency is a huge thing. And like I mentioned before, especially for a company like Lucasfilm that really thrives in that consistency, and so that I'm creating these palettes so that if they like what I did, I know that they're going to keep getting the same result from me. One of the things that I like to do that a lot of artists don't do, or colorists don't do, is I don't only color highlights. but I like to come back in and actually paint back in certain things, like, you know, if Jim's painted in these folds, you know, you want to make sure that these folds look realistic, and so that you don't be happy with just putting down 1 or 2 highlights. Make sure you come back and complement that with some of your own kind of shading to make that look like a realistic glove.
And do you still have to use references for things, or do you just know, hey, that's how this folds now, or this is how that drapes?
For fabric, for the most part, I think I have enough of a library in my head that I can pull it off. But there's always something new. I'm a big fan of drawing what you see, and so that if I walk by a car and there's a really cool reflection on it, I'll take a picture of it, because I'm like, I got to use that in the book later on. And so that's kind of the mentality that I used to approach my colors. That I work with a lot of artists that are very realistic, and so that's I do base a lot of what I do on real art or real things that I've seen. And this is where we're kind of going into a little bit of the experimentation of what I'm trying to do with the piece, and where you see that I go experimental a little bit more painterly as I'm kind of feeling my way through the piece.
Jim would be very happy with your rendering of this.
I hope so.
Pretty much exclusively colored his work. You guys are just numb to each other at this point, right? Are you impressed still? Is he impressed? I mean, like, do you still look back and be like, oh wow, that's good? Or does he go to you and be like, man, you did a hell of a job right there?
I still stare at him as he does a 2-second sketch at a convention, right? Look over and you're like, God, guy, I swear. And it's cool in that when we're working on something together, he'll send the pencils to Scott and I to look at. And then Scott will send the inks, and then I send the colors, and we're always just kind of keeping each other in the loop of what we're doing. So it's always cool because we share with each other, and it's a true collaboration and the collaborative process. And that's my favorite thing about working in comics, is that it's all of us kind of coming together and saying, this is us, right? It's not just Jim or just Scott or just me. It's the three of us. This is what we can do. I mean, obviously, both Jim and Scott are amazing artists in their own right, and can probably pull off a full piece on their own. So it's cool to know that they still want, me to be part of that team.
When you complete this, will you end up just texting Jim, hey, I just did this, check it out?
Yeah, well, I texted him before this saying, hey, you mind if I use one of your Twitch drawings? And he was cool with it. So that's I definitely want to make sure that he's happy with it.
And this is all artistic interpretation, because this was just a straight kind of sponge down black background, right? And using the white negative space. But then you decide to put Wolverine in a bloody pool. Or let's say, have you ever had something like this, right, where it's kind of minimal background with just kind of the character in the forefront, right? Have you ever had a cover like this where you did this much interpretation? Yeah,
they've actually sent sketches to me before saying, hey, Jim did a sketch of this years ago. We need a variant for X book, and can you paint a space cape to go with this Green Lantern sketch? I'm like, sure. So I'll just paint a space cape, drop the Green Lantern in, and add some special effects and cover.
I wondered what you were going to do with the background, and I thought you were just going to just make it blue and red and just leave it at that. And so so right now you're working on with the outermost layer right now.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is I've now taken the inks and put them on a layer above the color. People ask me if I work in multiple layers. When I do the initial rendering, if you noticed, I stayed on one layer. And then once I'm done, I'll put the inks into a layer, and then I'll put layers on top of that so I can start doing some of the special effects. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of the blue and making it fog out the water, kind of misting up towards the, we're actually almost done here.
You are the Houdini of hue. This is insane.
So what are you thinking now? So like, when do you think? When do you say that this is like done? Oh, I'm seeing the Sinclair.
What?
That's how you know he's done. Somebody put a cape on this man like James Brown. Somebody put a cape on this man like James Brown right now. We need to get the fire extinguisher and cool down that Wilkinson teak he has over there. Alex, okay, can you show them a before and after, please?
I mean, it doesn't even matter. Oh my God, look at that.
Wow.
Woo. Alex, you did your thing, man.
Can you do it one more? There it is. One more. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh.
As we end this, we just want to know, is there anything that you want the fans to know about?
Definitely very, very excited to be working with these guys over at Marvel. I'm still doing some work for DC as well. Like I said, I did I Am Batman #1. I'm doing a fill-in stint with Titans Academy. Astro City's coming back. They announced that at New York's Comic-Con. And so Kurt Busiek's launching his universe through Image Comics, and Astro City's coming back, and I'm excited for that. I haven't been, in fact, we kind of traded a couple emails yesterday about the preview issue that we're doing. And it's cool because it's a conversation between Kurt, Brent, Alex Ross, and myself, and we're talking about 4 pages of stuff, and we're having this full conversation, which is great because that's, like I said, that's part of the collaboration. We're talking about it. I haven't even put one dot of color on a page, and we're already, this is what this means, and this is why it has to be like this. And it's such a cool process to be a part of, where Kurt and Alex are very hands-on with everything, and it's because everything has a purpose, and it's cool to be part of something like that.
It seems like since the exclusive deal with DC expired, a huge beast has been released upon the comic book world. Man. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Much love, brother. We hope you can come back and join us again. Well, that's all for our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit that like button. We are the Stash Bros. I'm Mike, speaking for Chris and Alex Sinclair. We are out.